Now, what we're also going to say is that all the programs have represent the largest modern U.S. experiment in unrestricted cash payments, with more than 12,000 Californians expected to receive more than $180 million in public and private funds. Nowhere else have so many guaranteed income pilot programs launched at the same place. Keep that in mind, folks, because a new advocacy group actually doesn't want to let Republican lawmakers who oppose student loan forgiveness off of the hook. This Thursday, a nonprofit called Protect the Borrower's Action released an ad that criticized 13 Republicans and who voted back-to-back student debt relief. At the end of June this month and next month as well for August, the Supreme Court has struck down Biden's plan to cancel up to $20,000 in student debt for the federal borrowers. It came after both the House and the Senate passed a bill to take back Biden's debt relief that the president ultimately vetoed. So while Biden has announced a new plan to get borrowers relief during a different law, it's called the Higher Education Act, many Republican lawmakers don't even want to actually be carried on this. Biden acknowledged that delivering relief through the Higher Education Act will take some time because it requires the policy to go through a negotiated rulemaking process, which includes hearings and public commitment. Still, payments are scheduled to resume in October, but still, with interest accruing again in September. And while the Education Department announced a 12-month ramp on payments after the repayment starts, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is worried. Folks, more and more checks are expected to arrive for the Americans throughout the summer and fall. Lawmakers are agreeing to provide the low income with extra financial relief, and relief may either be in the form of a one-time check or direct deposit. But now, 2 rebate checks are going to be for tax policies. These checks are typically sent out after individuals file their annual tax returns and determine to be eligible for a refund or credit. The specific eligibility criteria for tax rebates is depending on tax lawmakers and regulations in the country. A large number of states have announced they will be mailing and depositing relief checks for many residents. During the recently wrapped legislative sessions, the lawmakers agreed to send tax rebates to people in Minnesota. And now the rebates are $260 for individuals with AGIs very high, but $520 for couples who file jointly. People within those limits will get an additional $260 per dependent for up to 3 people they can claim. Rebates are expected to go out via direct deposit and checks starting this fall too. It's important to note that the lawmakers and taxpayers who have to apply for these payments are going to get good money. Georgia has a very large budget surplus, and the latest report was more than $6 billion. As I was saying, to receive the funds, filers must have paid and filed tax for the past 2 years, and according to a spokesperson, Georgia's Department of Revenue has already processed over 1.1 million total refunds. It totals about $257 million. If you haven't received your money yet, don't even worry. The Department of Revenue said the funds will go out over the next 8 weeks for those who filed by April 18th. Those who filed after the tax deadline will, of course, wait a little bit longer, as refunds will not be issued until one's tax returns have been processed. A Wall Street Journal analysis of Federal Reserve data reveals a concerning financial situation for people ages 30 to 39. The demographic accumulated nearly $4 trillion in debt during the fourth quarter of 2022, it reflects a substantial $140 billion rise from preceding the quarter. Now, according to Yahoo News, the mounting debt is indicative of broader economic challenges faced by the generations. The New York's Fed data reveals that millennials in their 30s are accumulating debt at a very high pace, which is starting to be alarming. New data have shown that 73% of U.S. millennials are actually in deep trouble, living paycheck to paycheck. More than 1/3 of Americans say their student loans have prevented them from buying a home, because we all know that this is not the right thing to do. I also want to make another point on this important stimulus information, that a significant portion of the 22 to 37-year-olds surveyed revealed a concerning trend of retirement savings. According to the survey, a considerable number of respondents said that their monthly contributions to retirement savings were lower than the previous year.
Or debt on their credit cards, and there has been a huge jump in the number of people reporting they have signed up for SNAP food stamps or visited a food pantry in the past.
Folks, there's a ton of news about the fourth stimulus check, Social Security benefits, and SSI and SSDI. So far, everybody, President Biden is saying that an urgent warning has been released to the federal government. The IRS has new information on how to receive stimulus. It may now affect your tax refund as well. Some of the low-income households will likely see their check amount decrease. The IRS has already released an urgent warning concerning how stimulus payments are impacting your tax refund amount for the year. This will matter when you file your taxes for the next year of 2023. The stimulus checks in 2021, alongside the expanded parent-child tax credits, enabled millions of Americans more cash back from the tax refunds. The taxpayers should know the refund amounts will not match the money they received before. If you also deducted charitable contributions without itemizing them on your taxes, you will likely see that the amount of money missing from your tax refund is big as well. It's because the IRS stopped a special crisis era this year, so you cannot break a tax break for donations to charities if you claim to stand the deduction. In 2021, filers could claim up to $300 for cash donations or $600 if you're filing jointly. The tax break did not get extended in 2022, so there will be no financial benefit when it comes to your tax return. Ultimately, the IRS is giving you a smaller refund check. The IRS also warned that the timeline may be a little bit off in 2023 when it comes to refunds. According to officials, there is no specific deadline that Americans should expect to see their cash by. The IRS said that some returns may require additional review and some may take longer. But if you want your refund as soon as possible, then it helps to electronically file yours without any errors and opt to receive your payment by direct deposit. Schumer was unanimously elected for another term as the senatorial leader. He also is leading the 51-seat majority. Senate Democrats met behind closed doors in the Capitol to discuss a new leadership team. The session was swift with no challengers, unlike the contested Republican elections. So Schumer said after the announcement, "We had a great unified meeting. We were both very glad about what we were able to accomplish in the last Congress and setting aspirations that we will accomplish as much as in the 2 years." Now, Schumer has proven to be a steady force in one of the most consequential sessions of Congress. But Republicans take control of the House and Senate. Joe Biden said in the new year it will be a fresh challenge for Schumer in a divided Congress. Senate Democrats filled out the leadership team again, and now Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois was elected for the number 2 spot. So, Senate Republicans are already choosing their team, like Mitch McConnell on track to become the Senate leader again in the chamber.
Peace. Generations of veterans defended our country and our most sacred values. From the fields of Yorktown to the trenches of the Marne, from the beaches of Normandy to the banks of the Chosin Reservoir and the streets of Saigon, from Baghdad to Fallujah to Kandahar. You stood as one to protect our democracy and our freedom.
Big news, everybody. Millions of Americans, including senior citizens, will begin to see a change to their monthly benefit checks very soon. Lawmakers in Congress have officially proposed that the SSA increase relief payments for seniors by $1,000. In a slight deceleration in the U.S. inflation rate, led one senior citizens advocacy group to lower its 2023 COLA for Social Security recipients, though it's still likely that next year's adjustment will be the highest in more than 40 years. The Senior Citizens League updated its 2023 COLA estimate to 8.6%, somewhat lower than last month's 8.9%. The update came after the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics issued its latest Consumer Price Index report. And Mary Johnson, the Senior Citizens League